I'd like to welcome everyone to the weekly check-in. I'm John Perrotta, my co-host every Thursday night, the very funny Jessica Leigh. As you know, she's a therapist by day, and at night, she's the Comedy Factory's own personal therapist. And we need it. We need it, Jessica. All the comedians are having a crazy year, so we appreciate your service, and she's reasonable, too. That's a good. How you doing, Jess? All right?
I'm on vacation right now, so I've been like really good. I've been like just really like focusing on like a lot of like meditation, a lot of like downtime stuff. So I'm like, I feel like I'm in this like ongoing like Zen right now. So you got me at a good time. Although I think I'm gonna fall asleep at some point. So hopefully that doesn't happen in the middle of our chat. But things overall are things are okay this week. Things are good.
Well, you're not seeing any patients, so you just got to contend with me. So you're all right.
So, yeah,
but I could be worse than all your patients combined.
I would say that you're right. So maybe
you know what my therapist told me?
Maybe
I've been doing good for a while, Jess. But my therapist told me that at one point, a bunch of years ago, when I was partying hard, he said I was a desperado. He said whenever I left, he never knew what was gonna happen. He didn't know me. I was pretty wild in the day. I've calmed down. We got a great guest on tonight, Jess, because you and I could go on and on. This is a great friend of ours. We both know him. He started the Rogue Island Comedy Festival. He moved out to New York 2014. He headlined Caroline's Comedy Club. I remember when he got started, we did the connection and stuff. And funny guy, great guy. He came out to Dangerfields to see me. I appreciate that when I was out there. Doug Key. Doug, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on your the weekly check-in. And thank you, Jessica. I'm going to need your services quite badly. It's we got a lot going on this year, and it's getting crazy. So I commend you on what you do. It's a very hard job, and not everybody can do it. So
that's for sure. So what's going on, Doug? You were out there. You were having fun in New York, the comedy scene, and the pandemic hit. I mean, what's the status of everything? The Rogue Island Comedy Festival, New York. What's going on?
I was doing comedy pretty regularly in the city, up until March, obviously, and then had to cancel a lot of my summer dates and everything. And up until just 3 days ago, we decided to run the festival this year. We're going to downsize it a lot and, do it at a little wine vineyard in Portsmouth. So, it's going to be socially distant, all that stuff. And I want to thank you, John, because I think when I first started comedy, a lot of the shows I did for you, I feel like they were already socially distant. All the tables are spaced out at those banquet halls. The microphone is like, 200 feet away from the first table. So thank you for preparing me.
Not all the time.
I'm good. But yeah, so it's really just been, working full. I work at a nursing home during the day. That's how I actually am able to afford to live in the city. Some comics, they're dog walkers or, movers or whatever. But I've been pretty busy throughout this pandemic working at a nursing home.
I can imagine. Nursing home. Yeah. Did the nursing home get hit with the pandemic pretty bad? A lot of them have, I mean.
Yeah, we got hit pretty bad, like early on, like during the peak of it, and now they don't let any more COVID patients come into nursing homes, and I think the infection rate here is very low now anyway, so it's not as dire as it was before. But yeah, it was pretty crazy for a while. Like I caught the virus back in like late March, and that's when it was like there was no tests available. I don't know if you remember that. There were there was a shortage, and like if you I called 311, like the information hotline, to get tested, and the person answered. They were like, how can I help you? I'm like, well, I work at a nursing home. I'm trying to get tested for COVID because I could be infecting some of these residents, so I want to know for sure if I have it. And they were like, well, if you have symptoms, just go home and self-isolate. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I still want to know, though. And I told them I also have asthma, so I'm high risk. And they were like, yep, still, we don't have enough tests. So they told me to go home and self-isolate. And then I did. And then 2 days later, I saw the news, and there was a story that the tiger at the Bronx Zoo tested positive for corona. So they had enough tests for the tiger at the Bronx Zoo. but not a healthcare worker. So
That's crazy.
pretty crazy,
Crazy.
right?
Right.
Yeah. How bad did the virus hit you, dog? How bad?
I didn't bother my breathing really. That was what I was mostly afraid of with my asthma, but I was mostly like, chills, body aches, lost my smell and taste, fever, sore throat. So thankfully none of like the respiratory symptoms, but it cleared up in a few days.
Scary, Jess, huh?
Oh my God.
It is.
Yeah.
It
That's
is.
how high did your fever go?
I'll be honest, I didn't have a thermometer,
Oh, okay.
but I was pretty steamy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I was like fluctuating between like freezing cold and then like just sweating profusely.
It had to be high. Yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing I could say that really helped was like, I have one of those like, humidifier things, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
The vapor, whatever.
Yeah.
So I just like stuck my face over that for like 2 hours, and
Right.
the next day I felt fine. So that really helped kill whatever was in my body.
Oh my God.
I don't have any science to back that up whatsoever, but to
But
give it a shot.
Looks like you trusted your intuition. So I mean, hey,
Yeah, I'm not telling anybody to swallow bleach, so that's better than that.
It's been a rough enough year, and then you had to go get the virus. I didn't know you had the virus back then. Jesus, dog. That's how long did it last? How long did you?
From start to finish, only like 3 to 4 days. Like it thankfully didn't hit me
Right.
that. Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but it was, a crazy time because I was working full time. I'm actually in graduate school right now too. I'm going back to get my master's in occupational therapy, which Jess probably knows a lot about that. A lot of people don't really know what OT
there's
is,
a lot
but
of wait lists for there's a lot of
Yeah.
wait lists for OT. So.
I knew an
Yeah.
occupational therapist that worked at the prison. When I worked at the prison, she used to.
yeah,
The inmates. She was an occupational therapist. I'm not sure how much luck she had there. We're dealing with the inmates, but
yeah, it's tough. There's huge mental health component to that field too. So it's it's kind of almost parallel with what Jessica does, but a little bit more like, you're kind of in the battlefield, reintegrating people into the communities and things like that, doing things that are meaningful to them and helping them, kind of like coaching them.
Yeah, that's actually the like where most of my background in social work is actually a lot of like re-entry and like diversion stuff, and that's like where right now I work with kids and families, and I also work with adults too because I have 2 jobs in the field, but that's where I want to go back to eventually once once I go for like my LI and whatnot. So right now I'm kind of in between and I'm kind of doing like some other type of stuff, but like that is my like ultimate goal, is to work with people like transitioning back into the community from certain places, like specifically like hospitals, detoxes, jails and things like that. That's kind of my like history a little bit, and I think that's where there's like a great need for workers, is during that time because of like the amount of vulnerability from when somebody's transitioning from like being somewhere to coming out. Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah, it's crazy
crazy
times.
Yeah, that's where like there's such a need. So that's like, that's really cool that you're like looking into doing something like kind of parallel to that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a double life between comedy and professional day job in healthcare. But
oh my God, I changed in my car. Well, not like full on changed in my car, but like kind of, you know what I mean? Like changed, like, I had like a tank top on and stuff like that. But I'm like, am I doing this like in a parking lot in Rhode Island to go to Copperfields? Like, because I just like a social work job. And I'm like, I am really living like a double life between like social work and.
I used to run from the prison, get out of the prison at 8:30, work overtime, and fly home, take a quick shower. I'd have a show going somewhere. I'd run in, and amount of 10 minutes, I was out of my mind. I was crazy.
Oh yeah, it's like I don't understand like some of these people that work 10 jobs and still do comedy. Like I have one job, and I don't. Just go for it all the way, or I don't know.
So when did you start comedy, Doug? I remember I don't remember the year, but I remember it's got to be at least 2010 or before
2009. That? Yeah, 2009 I did my first show, but like 2010 is really when I started doing, I think that's when I met you, and that's when I started doing like the bringer shows at the Connection, and then you booked me on, some other like, whether it's a VFW or a restaurant or some show. I forget the first one I did with you, but so 2010 is really when I started like getting into it a little bit more. Yeah. And started doing all the hosting thing and the guest spots and all that. Yeah. And then
you improved as time went on. You were getting funnier and funnier. I remember, back when
I
you were here.
appreciate that.
Yeah, when you were
Yeah.
here in Rhode Island.
I can attribute that to having such a strong, supportive, like senior class in Rhode Island, like you and Brian Bowden and John O'Connor, who was John Porch then. But those guys, they were like headlining, and you know, it's nice when you have like like a veteran guy vouch for you and book you on shows and also recommend you to other shows, because that really, expands your skills instead of just falling into that habit of doing like, just open mics forever. You gotta.
Oh yeah. Well, some people, it's every comic, there's a different. Some people advance farther than others. Like you've done really well. Like, and when did you start the Wasted Talent show?
Yeah, you did
Because
that.
I was there one night. You had me in there.
Oh yeah, you
I
killed.
had
I
a good
remember that
time.
night.
It was a good crowd.
Yeah, I started producing a show like maybe like 3 years into comedy. I realized that, okay, I could probably do this. And I lived in Newport at the time, and there was no stand-up scene in Newport. It's kind of far away from the connection and, where you were doing all your gigs. So I felt like I had a market there, and I knew everybody in town, and they were always like, hey, I want to come see your show. And when I would say it's in Cranston, they're like, oh, never mind. The Newport people never want to leave the island. So I figured I would ask these people that run this little black box theater, little BYOB theater, and I called it the Wasted Talent Show, because people like would just straight up bring like 30 packs of beer, a box of wine for a 90-minute show. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh man.
So yeah, we ran that for a few years, and I ended up moving to New York, and
I mean, that show put you on the map. That show put you was getting you more on the map when you started doing the Wasted Talent Show. Became very popular.
It was a really popular show, and I got a chance to bring a lot of big names from New York that also helped me out when I moved to New York. So it was a cool kind of community to see, having people come from Connecticut, even people who were in town from LA would do the show. Like we had Ahmed Barucha one time when he was back home from LA.
He's done well.
Yeah.
I remember when he was a dishwasher at Stitch's Comedy Club in like 2003, 2004. I helped him. He started open mics. I helped him get some stage time, and he's done really well.
Yeah, Ahmed was one of the first guy that I watched an open mics from, like, wow, this kid is so like he's gonna be on TV, and now he is. So
yeah. The first time I saw him was at Catch a Rising Star. Do you remember Catch a Rising Star from years ago? He took the bullet for like one of the contests because he had already like won the whole thing, and I'm like, this dude's hilarious. And then
he just has it. Like, he's such a performer. I think he has like an improv background, so he's got like that really animated, like on stage presence.
Mm-hmm.
And his material is so like well structured and original. So he's great. But anyway, he did the Wasted Talent Show, and that's kind of how I got the idea to run the festivals, because on the last time I ever did Wasted Talent Show, it sold out so quick that I had to do like a second one. So I did 2 shows in one weekend for the Wasted Talent, and I was like, if I can do this, I could probably slap together like a festival in one weekend, like multiple shows, different venues, and call it a festival. So that's where me and Rob Green, we kind of talked about it and got it all planned out, and we did the first one in 2015, and every year since we've had it grow a little bit bigger and bigger until this year, where it's barely holding on by a thread.
Yeah, it's tough. It was a great success. I mean, it'll come back, but this year's at least it's good that you're doing it, even on a small scale, to keep it alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just didn't want the asterisk next to it of 2020 being like, this is the 7th annual comedy festival, but technically it's because we took 2020 off. I didn't want that. I just wanted to do something small, outdoors. I've done a few of these outdoor shows recently. I did one in like Pennsylvania, one in New Jersey, one in New York, and the people, they come. They're hungry for comedy, and the producers set it up very safe and where people are comfortable. So I figured I could just take the formula that people are doing already and just bring it to Newport and do it at Greenvale Vineyards.
Oh, that's cool. Now, what are you gonna do? Is it one day of shows, or is it a couple of days, or?
It's actually going to be 3 days. Usually the festival is 5 days, but we're just doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, October 9th to the 11th on Columbus Day weekend. So we're just going to do one show Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. Because everyone has the Monday off for the most part. So yeah, it's super fun. We got Joe List is going to be the headliner for the Saturday. We got Ray Harrington, Sarah Talamash, Chris Allen. We got a lot of local guys, Alan Fitzgerald, Rob Green, R.A. Bartlett. So it's going to be fun. I wish you could do it. I asked you.
Yeah, next year. Yeah, I would have loved to have done it, but I haven't been on stage in 6 months, man. I watch videos of my act, and I'm like, I don't remember any of that. I remember that. Wait a minute. My head's like,
It comes
back.
Imagine,
you get on stage, it'll come back, I guess, they say. But I've never gone this long without being on stage, Jessica. I don't know, like 6 months, a long time.
Yeah.
I haven't doing it 29 years, and all of a sudden, 6 months, I'm like.
It's crazy. It's that whole, theory of neuroplasticity. It's like you practice something over and over again, and it just becomes automatic, and then as soon as you don't do it, your brain actually trains itself to forget it, because it's like, oh, we're not doing that, so we need to put other stuff in there. Yeah, so it's tough.
My phone used to ring because I book stuff. I would get some days maybe no calls. The next day I get 3 calls for, hey, we want to book something in November, or a club would call me, I want to book something New Year's Eve, or I had calls coming in. I called Jessica, whether, hey, you want to be in this show? I put stuff together. I love putting the shows together. Some guys, comics don't want to do that, but I found that I got pretty good at it over time. I like doing it, but I'll not, I can't see me going back to the pace I was at. I was I was berserk, Doug. I was going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think you need this, John. I think you need to just, reflect, meditate, do some yoga.
I needed to chill out. I'm nice and chilled. I've adjusted well, Jessica, thanks to you, the therapist. I've adjusted well. I'm nice and calm now.
Now that you got all the Zoom stress out of the way, because in the beginning,
the Zoom getting this going was crazy, because we wanted to go live with it, and then we kept having trouble. It kept cutting out, and then finally my friend said, "Why don't you just record it and then put it up after on Facebook and YouTube?" So it's worked out much better. Especially sometimes we've had some guys say stuff that we just couldn't put on.
I'm trying to bite my tongue a little bit. I don't want to say the wrong thing here. But so what have you, John? What have you been doing though? What's the day in the life of JP?
Well, retired correctional officer, now retired comedian for now, because the phone's not ringing. I had one friend from the prison put my fence up. I needed a new fence. Another friend of mine did my deck, took the old deck out, put a new deck in. My wife and I just cleaned out the garage and the cellar, which was tons of stuff. We had a junk guy come last week and this week. We had piles of stuff, cleaned everything out. I'm going to get my cellar painted. I got some plumbing work to do down there.
Nice.
I'm doing house stuff.
John, you're living
I'm domesticated now.
You're living like Henry Hill at the end of Goodfellas. You're in the witness protection program.
Yeah.
Living it up like a schmuck, just day in the life.
I went from being people thought I was a mafia comic, and now all of a sudden I'm doing stuff around the house.
Yeah.
It's crazy, Jess.
That's all right. Those are all life skills that I'll probably put off until I'm 62 as well.
I would have never got to it if the pandemic didn't hit. Because my wife was saying, gotta clean out the garage, clean out the cellars, too much clutter. I said, when I die, junk everything. I didn't care. I was zooming around doing my shows. There was no way I could even get an hour to move something out of the house. But now with the pandemic, I got the time, so I got into this stuff, and it's working out good. I'm actually happy. I'm enjoying myself. If you told me I'd be happy not doing comedy, I would never believe you. But I'm involved doing the Zoom show, so I'm somewhat involved. We do a few of these a month, and it's helping me a lot. Stay in the game. I get to see you, Doug, and see Jessica. I see different friends of mine I have on. I had John O'Connor on recently. That was a great show, and so we're having fun. This is helping me. The Zoom show, definitely. It's good therapy.
It helps you flex the muscle a little bit with comedy. You're still a funny person, so you got to kind of vent that somewhere, right? And then you got a nice therapist here to You know, I've never actually seen a therapist. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit. I know I should, because I got a lot of
That's the best. Oh my God.
cuckoo
Because
stuff
most
going
people
on
are
out
like, I'm seeing a therapist, like I don't know what to say, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm really embarrassed. I've actually never done that before.
It is. I mean, because I'm like not a shit. I would love to go see a therapist. I've just never like, you know what it is? It's like I feel like it's almost like choosing. It's like getting a tattoo. I'm like,
Yep.
I gotta pick the right one the
Yep.
first time, or else I feel like this is gonna leave a scar if I go, and they're not
Yep.
gonna. Because if I have a bad therapist, I'm never gonna go back.
Hey, I've been lucky because I had to go to rehab in the early '80s. I did have a drinking problem in my lifetime. A few times I battled it, but I went to a therapist. I went to rehab, and they hooked me up with a therapist. And then the therapist I had in rehab, between the two of them, I saw them back and forth taking turns. And then I wound up seeing this therapist on and off. I've known him for 35 years, since '84, like 36 years, and he's phenomenal. We're like great friends. He calls me twice a week. Everything's so good now that all we do is talk about the good stuff. All the stuff that I was having trouble with in the past, I've been blessed. I've overcome my demons.
Now, man.
But I figured, you know what? I like this therapist. I'm going to continue with him and just work on bettering myself. And it's worked out great for me.
Well,
Sometimes you think, right, Jess, you think, I'm all better now. I don't need the therapist anymore. But I found I made a decision to continue seeing him. And that was the best decision I made, Doug, because I get to work on things you think you're done, but then things come up from the past. And what about this? And this is bothering me.
Yeah.
And you get to work on issues from your past. That
I got a lot of those.
Yeah, it's helped me a lot.
Like rock bottom, there's like a trap door there usually, and you end up like falling down like the rabbit hole, and that's like that is totally real.
I feel like that's where I am. I feel like I'm like just kind of tiptoeing around a rabbit hole that I could fall down at any moment. I'm like an IKEA dresser. I'm like, the screws are just tight enough to hold together, but it's real wobbly. It could collapse at any second. So.
It makes sense though that you don't want to be like open, like it really is like getting a tattoo, like trying to find a therapist that you feel like you can connect with. And like I've had like a couple of different ones like throughout the years, but I went like a long stretch of time without seeing anybody for therapy. And then I was like, I really need to do this, because I'm dancing around the rabbit hole. And I ended up finding somebody who I like went through my entire life with, and like I will tell her that like I'm like, you like did a lot of this, like making me comfortable enough to be able to like go to these places that like I can't just go to in like everyday conversation with just anybody. And she was like, no, like you were ready to do the work, and that's what like a big part of it is. So like I kind of disagree with her on that, because I really feel like I can open up to her about a lot of different things, but like that is the other part of it too, that like if you're like really seeking to have that like experience and you really want to like go through your life and stuff like that, like you'll definitely find somebody like that is going to be like a good fit for you. It's just but yeah, that's even if you just like make like a whole bunch of calls, and like I feel like you can even tell like from like the voicemail back and whatnot, and that energy that you're going to pick up on of like it's going to be good or not, like it's I know it's early on, but like if something's giving you like a bad feeling, like maybe don't go for it.
Yeah, I texted a comic. I went through a breakup like back in December, and I was in like a really sad place for a little while after, and I was like, I should probably talk to a therapist now, and they can maybe coach me why blah blah blah, breakup, depression, blah blah blah. So I texted my friend, and he has a therapist that sees a lot of comedians, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna give you his number, but I'm just gonna warn you, he's really busy. And I was like, oh God, but he's great. So if you get him, he's great. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not really what I want to hear. Like, oh, he's always available. He wasn't that at all. He was like, oh, he's a tough get. He's a real tough get. So I texted him, and I was like, oh, this guy referred me. And he gets back to me like pretty immediately, which I respect. And he's like, hey, I'm not taking any more clients, but he gave me like a list of 5 other therapists to see that he recommends. So I called the first person on that list, and they weren't taking clients. So I was like, screw this. I'm not going to therapy.
You threw in the towel. Oh, okay.
I was like, I'm just going to cry in my apartment for 17 days straight.
Yeah.
And I felt good. Now here we are.
Yeah.
Now you're doing good, Doug, right?
Yeah, it just takes crying.
Yeah.
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 I've had
Even if you're in therapy, you know, the crying is still present, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know?
cathartic. It feels good.
Yeah.
I've
I
had a
started
lot of
working
broken
at a gym
relationships.
relationship, so
Jessica,
that's-
I don't know. I've had a lot of broken relationships. And that's why I have an alarm on my house.
Yeah.
So I can sleep at night in case any of these crazy girls from the past want to come out of the dock and start some trouble.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready for
That's why I changed my phone passwords monthly.
them. Crazy. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Jessica, you got any questions for Doug? You were involved in the Rhode Island Comedy Festival one year, right? Or a couple of years.
So something that Doug said earlier about how he's not sure like how like some comics have like 10 jobs and things like that. But I'm sitting here, I'm listening to Doug and I'm thinking of like, cause I was working full time and I was in grad school for like a good chunk of years. Like I went part-time to grad school, but it's still a lot like when you're going for social work. So it was like a 4-year program and I could like barely get out to things. And like the Rhode Island Comedy Festival, because it's in the fall, like I was only able to go 1 year, but I had a lot of fun when I went down there. That was like a really, really good time. And like I just did some barking and like I hung out at like some of the shows and stuff like that. But it was
that.
Oh my God, like it was a really good time. And it was just cool to like just keep like bumping into people like every 2 seconds and like how it kind of like took over like Newport. And I hadn't really like spent too much time out in Newport either. But then, so of course, like this year when I finally finished grad school, like, and, you know, was like coming back into comedy, then the pandemic started and I was like, oh, well, there goes that, I guess, you know, but, you know, but you're doing a billion things and working and grad school. And that's like, you're like producing like festivals. Like you're not just like producing like really good shows, like you're producing festivals. So I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like how are you doing all of this?
Well, it's, I don't know. I do have a great support system as far as like, you know, my peers in my school they're very supportive and they, you know, we all help each other get through classes, especially during this pandemic. And then with the festival, I have Katie Latimer, who's my partner. She really kills it. She does all the marketing and the graphic design, and she's like the tech person. So I have her helping, and I'm still working full time at the nursing home. So it is a lot, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like if I'm not doing something, filling up my schedule, I feel like maybe this is something I need to work out in therapy, where I feel like useless, like I should be doing something. And I know that I need to like take it slow or else I'm gonna have a stroke. But it's so fun. But it's worth it. Like when the festival comes around and I'm completely like exhausted and spent from all the months of producing it, like just seeing everybody, all the shows pack out and like all the volunteers having a good time and you know, we hang out at the after parties and just the green room hangs. It makes it all worth it. And then, you know, you can kind of like, in hindsight, look back and go, all right, it wasn't that bad. So I'm kind of living in that present moment of like, all right, it's going to suck now, but it's all going to pay off.
It's a big thrill when you do it. It's a big thrill. And then you're getting more and more known through the years. Like, you know what I mean? You did the Wasted Town show and that put you on the map. Then you did the Rhode Island Comedy Festival. That's put you on the map. And I remember seeing you a headliner at Carolyn. So all these things add up to build your career up. I mean, I know there's a pandemic now, but you've got a good resume going, and you know what I mean. And you're young, Doug. Who knows what can happen in the future for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's, you know, they're not like crazy huge. I mean, they're big accomplishments to me in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, there's always somewhere. Nobody's ever really content in this industry. I feel like you're always, no matter where you are, you always want to get to the next step. And you know, even though I've gotten like a couple cool things here and there, it's still like just the same you know, mentality I have with like working or going to school or producing the festival. It's like it's never enough, you know. But I still like appreciate it, and I still am proud of things I've done. And but I'm not gonna harp on what I don't have yet, which I feel like a lot of people need to not do that, because that's where they get those.
You gotta appreciate what you've done. Appreciate what you've done, and I think I always tell the guys, stay in the game. Don't quit comedy, because if you stay in the game, You never know what's going to happen. Like for me, 29 years of comedy, everything that happened for me, three biggest things happened in 3 months. I had met Tammy Pescatelli doing a gig in Connecticut, and a few months went by, and she asked me if I would do her show at the Friars Club in New York City, which I was thrilled to death. I was a wreck when I went in there. I was in the Don Rickles room, the Jerry Lewis room. I was
I
sweating.
did that room once.
I had a suit on. I was nervous, and I had a great set. And that was one of the great. And then 2 weeks later, Bill Burr texted me, "Hey," I said, "Who is this? Will you open for me at the Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom? Would you like to open?" So there I am, 2,000 people a show, 2 shows. I did that, and then Johnny Peasy booked me to do a whole weekend with Lenny Clark. I mean, this happened all in like 3 months.
Yeah.
And I was like so thrilled. And I'm thinking maybe something's gonna, maybe I'm gonna get a break here. Something will give. And that was it. That was the biggest 3 months of my whole career out of 29 years.
It doesn't matter, because like sometimes the biggest things that happen aren't even the best things. Like the biggest thing, like the best things are like, hanging out with, you and Maya and Rob, like just, our friends, like after an open mic or like a little rinky-dink gig. Like those
That's
are like
what
the
I
best
miss.
moments.
That's what I miss. Hanging out with the comics. That's what I love.
Yeah. That's the culture. That's our lifestyle. That's like our social circle. And, we don't have that. So we realize now that it's so important. But like, again, going back to like achievements, that's never like, even if you decide that like, you said that you're retired for now, but like, who cares? You still love doing comedy. You could kind of dip your toes in whenever. It makes you happy. So why stop it altogether completely if you...
Yeah, I will never. I'll probably never stop completely. I mean, I still want to put shows together. Like right now, all the places I did, none of them, I'm interested in doing comedy right now. The way the state is, you can't, it's tough.
Yeah.
So eventually, if my phone starts ringing, I'd like to get back into some things. But right now, you know what I mean?
It's tough. None of the venues really that we did the festival in last year really wanted to do any shows either. And that's why we were so behind on producing it, because if we weren't going to do it downtown Newport, I was like, then what's the point? Because that's where all the foot traffic is. That's where all the, the tourists go. And most of our ticket sales are from people that are just visiting that weekend. But then last minute, I contacted the owner of Greenvale Vineyards. And after seeing like all these, wine vineyard and brewery shows that are happening, I'm like, you know what, let's just see if he wants to do it. And he was on board 100%. And he's like, let's just do it here. So now I'm kind of just relying on the support of all the local, comedy lovers and people in Rhode Island that love, local stand-up. So
well, they're going to know that the festival was in Newport, but now it's going to be there this year because of the situation. You're probably going to get people coming over.
I hope so.
Yeah, I would think so,
Yeah.
We wish you luck with that, Doug. I mean, you'll do all right. You'll do all right.
I hope so.
People can you how many people can you like accommodate for it?
I think it's like 60 or 75 or something like that. It's underneath a tent. It's out like on the wine terrace with like an awning. So it's outdoor with a little cover. So yeah, with everything spaced out, I think it's like 60 or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's a good show. It's a decent sized show, especially again, just to have a fun time and
going. You want to keep the ball going too.
Keep it alive.
I mean, because the other option would be like if you wanted to, because I know some of the festivals have moved to Zoom. I haven't done comedy on Zoom yet. Like I've only done like the chats with like John and stuff like that, and I'm like doing a podcast right now and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I can't picture me telling material via Zoom, but I don't know. Is it
it's
okay?
Tough. It's tough.
Different things. Yeah.
I did see. I had Rick Jenkins on a week or two ago.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a great episode.
Yeah, and I talked to Rick, and so I wound up watching the Comedy Studio this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I watched the Saturday show, and I enjoyed it.
It's cool to watch.
Yeah, Drew Dunn was on, and some other great comics, and I was surprised. They were all like sitting at their desk or kitchen table, and they were doing their act for 10. They all did about 10 minutes, and it was a great show.
Yeah, it's not the same. It doesn't have the same, feel to it.
I can't do it. I mean, I like to work get involved with the audience. What am I gonna do on Zoom?
You can just
I
make fun of
can
everyone.
do like a talk show like we do, but I can't. What am I gonna say? Look at the guy in the upper right corner. What am I gonna do? I can't do that. You know.
I think you can. I've seen people do that. They make fun of like people's living rooms and whatever's in their house.
Yeah.
I got a lot of shit in here that I could just like make fun of. Like I could just like start going through my apartment and just like
Yeah.
that way. Maybe I don't know, but off the cuff, I'm like really not always the best. So I don't
Hey,
know.
people are getting
Yeah.
creative. I mean, there's one positive thing that came out of this. It's people are kind of in this fight or flight response
Yes.
to the pandemic, and they really have to, it really kind of exposes certain talents that maybe people have or think they have. But it's great. It's just try as much as you can, because the world's changing, and it's not saying that comedy is never going to come back, because it is, but it's going to be it might be diluted with online shows and stuff. So virtual reality is next, probably. Who knows?
They're doing drive-ins. I saw
Yeah.
Christine Hurley, Kelly McFarland, and Kerry Louise Carter are doing a show at Plainridge Park Casino outside, and I think that's in was that in Taunton or
It's in Plainville.
Plainville? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
they're doing an outside show, so there's a lot of that going on. I was never a
Yeah.
fan of outside shows. I did a bunch of them through the years, and I found them the inside shows much better. It's easier to
Yeah.
work crowd. Outside is too much. People getting into this, that, too much commotion. Who's not
Well, there's
paying
also
attention?
there's no acoustic, so it's like the
No
laughs
acoustics.
don't bounce anywhere. You just you hear chuckles, but it's weird because you could be doing very well, but when you're on stage, you can barely hear the laugh. So you have to like have another comic after the show be like, oh yeah, you did pretty good. Oh, did I? Because I didn't hear anything.
No, the acoustics. I remember doing a show years ago at the Coachman. There used to be a place in Tiverton, Rhode Island, and then we had the sound out there at the show. We had a crowd, and it started raining. We weren't under a tent or anything, and all of a sudden it's raining. I'm like, oh man, it's a bad night.
Oh yeah, that's what they did in New York.
Yeah,
They had one outdoor, and they had to give all the comics this little like Hello Kitty umbrella. It's like pink umbrella, and they're all performing in front of cars that are just beeping their horns and flashing their lights to laugh. So
I can't handle that, Doug. I can't handle that.
I feel like I would have an anxiety attack if like there was a whole bunch of cars just beeping. I don't know if I could handle that. I feel like I could handle the online thing and my uncomfortability there as opposed to like at a drive-in. I don't know. That's
Right.
it's a different
Standing there with an umbrella.
Yeah.
People are beeping their horns. Yeah, I couldn't handle that.
I will say, John, without you in the Rhode Island comedy scene, it's going to be a big hit to the scene, and it's going to be tough to rebound. But there's a new crop of comics there that I think have some promise, like that are slapping together some shows. But it's not going to be like it was when you were there. So I just want to thank you personally for
I
everything you've done
appreciate
for me. And it's really I wouldn't be here in New York. I wouldn't have done any cool stuff if you never gave me those opportunities. So
I try to help with all the comics. I've always liked helping because what happened to me. It's a story. I started '83. I got up once. I didn't know it was the boom. I got up once at Periwinkle's Comedy Club. Did really well. I bombed twice. I quit for 8 years. I went to the Comedy Connection and watched Jonathan Katz, this big headliner from Boston. And I said, I got to try this again. So '91, I came back, and as I got going, we got involved in open mics. And I don't know if I had a little chip on my shoulder, but nobody really took me under their wing. So I tried to take as many comics under my wing, get them stage time. I made that. I dedicated a big part of my career to helping other comics, which sometimes I used to think later on I wouldn't change anything, but I thought later on in my career, I thought, if I put more into my own act and in my own career, I wonder maybe something different would have happened. I don't know, but I wouldn't change anything because I've made a lot of great friends. And when comics tell me they appreciate, like, the help I gave them, it makes me feel good.
Of course.
I love comedy. I live comedy. And I've been glad to help everybody. And I would do it again.
Yeah, man. You eat, sleep, bleed, breathe comedy. And, like, as far as a booker goes, there's so many bookers out there that have, like, this, I don't know, this superior, like, gatekeeper complex where they're you know, kind of make you or break you. And it's like, you've always just stayed humble. You know, you've always been, I remember like when you gave me your phone number when I was like a brand new comic, and you would text me like, hey Doug, can you do this gig for $50 or whatever? And I was like, what? I was like, John Perrotta just asked me to do a gig for $50. I was like, I made it. I made it.
You made it.
But you've never had that. You've always been so like warm and like appreciative. And like, if, you know, I showed up to a gig and maybe, you know, not as many people showed up that you anticipated, you'd be like, I'm so sorry. Like, I thought it was going to be, and we're like, dude, I'm just happy to be here. Like, I'm happy to perform in front of, you know, 15, 20 people. But you were always so humble, and it made us feel like you were always on the level of a newer comic. You were never like, you never gave this energy that you were bigger or better than anybody. So that's.
I believed early on that I said, you know what, I got to treat the new comic like I do the headliner, and that's a philosophy I had. I'm going to treat everybody the same, whether it's a big headliner or a guy just coming in the door starting comedy. I try to treat everybody good. I think I get that from my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother I was very close to her. She's a very warm person. I think I get that from her, you know, like a people person. And I got that from her. And I just believed in helping people and giving everybody a chance, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the way it worked out. I mean, I've enjoyed it, you know. I've enjoyed it. It's been a fun ride.
Absolutely, man. So, but we're still going strong, and hopefully this year is, you know, over quick.
Yeah, 2020 has not been kind to many of us in the comedy business and many other businesses.
Yeah. So I just wish the best for everybody. But yeah.
You guys, this has been a lot of fun. You got anything else, Jessica, you want to ask Doug? Anything, any therapy advice you want to give the people out there? Or?
Yeah, hit me. I'll bill your insurance company later, but I'll, you know.
This is free of charge. Just don't settle for less, Doug. Don't settle for less. Like, you know, like call those other 4 people on that list too before, you know, and then go back to the crying. But like, make sure that you make the calls first, you know, because somebody, you know, like you could get like, you know, a hit and be like, oh yeah, that's somebody that I would be, you know, willing to do an intake with, you know what I mean? And just take it in like small doses like that of like, you know what, I'm just going to go, instead of like having like expectations of like, oh, this has to be the fit, you know, and stuff like that, you know, just go low expectations of like, just gonna go see what this is like, you know, and then that way if it's not what you're looking for, then be like, okay, nope, next.
Totally. Yes. I'm sure it couldn't hurt. And I know that a lot of people that go in and they feel like they left like rejuvenated, like they just took a yoga class. You know, I know Mark Norman does that bit about like people will go to the gym to work out their muscles. He's like, everyone should go to the therapist and work out their brain, you know? So I feel like that if at least, you know, one thing's going to come from it, it's going to be just feeling a little bit more weight off my chest, I guess, you know?
Doug, I'll tell you, the therapist I have, we got such a great relationship. He calls me, it was once a week when the pandemic hit, I used to go see him. Now he calls me once a week, and now he's calling me twice a week, and I'm fine. I'm doing great, and we talk. It's like 2 guys just talking at a ball game, and we just we talk, and I feel good after I talk to him. He's a great guy,
and he charges you $600.
My health insurance covers it, and because it's online, because it's on the phone, there's no co-pays during this time.
I don't have a copay either for the person that I see. Yeah, I don't have a copay.
So no copay, so I get to talk to him. He's a great friend now. He's my counselor. And I'm so good.
Her daughter to go buy a pillow that I have in my apartment. She's like, "Where did you get that pillow that's in the background?" And I think that my daughter would really like that. So I told her where to go get it, and she went and got it. I love her, but she's great. Yeah, she's really great. But I've also had like some people that I'm like, yeah, no, you know, like, and, you know, like somebody who, like, as soon as, like, the session was over, she was, like, rushing me out her door, you know what I mean? And I was like, this doesn't feel, you know, or I don't feel comfortable if I don't feel comfortable sharing this, I'm definitely not going to be comfortable sharing, like, the rest of the shit that's, like, you know, piled in the truck. So, you know, so it's just test the waters and see, you know, low expectations, high hopes, you know. And
I like that. That's a great, I'm leaving with that. Low expectations.
Jess and Doug, I just gotta tell you, I've been in therapy, I don't know, for 35 years. It's helped me immensely. I've learned so much. I could actually be a counselor. I told my counselor this. I could actually be a counselor.
Your mentor.
Because I've seen what I bounced back from. I bounced back from stuff. I was down on the mat several times in my life, like down. Things weren't going my way, and divorces and broken relationships, the whole 9 yards. And I got myself off the mat, and I fought back. And the whole time, I stayed in comedy. I don't know. I went through times that were rough, and I still got up. I remember, Doug, when my father, he passed away on a Friday night, and I was devastated. He was in hospice, and I'll never forget it. Then the next day, I said, "What am I going to do?" I had 3 shows scheduled on that Saturday night. I was running from one to the other, and I said, "I can't do these shows." And I'm talking to my mother. My mother says, "You know, your Dad would want you to do the shows." And I said, "I can dedicate him to him, maybe." And I went up all 3 sets. I had good sets. At the end of the set, I had tears in my eyes. I told the crowd, dedicating it to my father. He passed away last night, and I pulled off 3 sets the night after my father died.
Yeah, so, and you needed that, and that was good. That was good for you to do that. So
I look back now. That was a great tribute to my father, and it's great that I did it for myself. You know, it was really good.
All right. Well, you're a walking testimonial that therapy works. Then, so maybe I'll just take your word for it.
Doug, I can be your counselor.
All right. Hey, well, I got your number. So
this is the weekly check-in. We'll have you come every Thursday. You can check in with me and Jess.
Counselor.
All right.
You just work up the chain, you know. So and then
Jess,
you'll have somebody under you, and we'll just keep going. Yeah. We should
rent an office, Jess. You be on one side, I'll be on another. They just put up a plaque for me. They're not gonna know who I am. Just say I'm a social worker, MSW, whatever you call it, and I'll start seeing patients. Cash only though. Cash.
Yes.
All right, I'll Venmo
you. Guys have been great. Doug, I really appreciate you coming on the weekly check-in. We'll have you on again. I wish you the best of luck once this pandemic eventually dies down. You get rolling. Good luck with the Rogue Island Comedy Festival, the mini version this year, but it's going to be a big success.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think it will be. You've done awesome. Jessica Leigh, my co-host, as always, fantastic. And I want to thank you guys. Stay healthy. Stay out of trouble. I love you guys, right?
All right. Love you too, John. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks, guys.